And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. I'm Joe Concha along with Rick Unger, Heather Hansen, and Julian Melchior. So, do you know the name Martin O'Malley? If you don't, he's the former governor of the great state of Maryland, and some believe he has what it takes to be the next Democratic nominee.
You and I are proud to be members of the Democratic Party. And let the Tea Party measure their success by how many times they can shut down our government. We measure success in jobs and opportunity for all. And let them speak for the sad yesterdays that were. We speak for the better tomorrows that can be.
And because you asked for it, here is more from Mr. O'Malley at the Scott County Democratic Party dinner in a city you're going to hear a lot about, in Davenport, Iowa.
Make no mistake about it. The American dream is what makes America exceptional. Fear and anger never built a great nation. Our country is built by the compassionate choices that we make together to live lives guided by our better angels. We love our country. We love what our country is, and what's more, we love what our country can become. So take pride. Take pride.
Take pride. So, is Mr. O'Malley qualified for the Oval Office? Well, he was a governor for 8 years, so probably. But in a political landscape that's just as much about personality as it is policy, and Martin appears to be lacking in the former, will this work? Then again, Mrs. Clinton isn't going to be hosting the Golden Globes anytime soon either.
As I have gotten older, I have decided we really need camps for adults.
So, how does O'Malley look in the polls? According to a new PPP poll, not well. Hillary Clinton rules with 58%. Vice President Joe Biden lags far behind with 14%. Senator Elizabeth Warren follows with 10%. And Martin O'Malley, 2%. So, why are we talking about him? Because maybe Hillary's email scandal has given likely voters a pause. New York Post today had a story talking about how Democrats would prefer O'Malley since they don't see Warren as electable and Biden they don't take seriously. So O'Malley suddenly becomes the plan B. Your thoughts, Rick?
Go figure that the New York Post might be wrong yet again. Look, I mean, listening to Governor O'Malley there reminded me of that wonderful episode of Bobby Jindal reading us a bedtime story when responding to the State of the Union. He's not good at it. I got to tell you, I hate to say this about a fellow Democrat. He's an empty suit. There's not much there. He has the right rating. 2% is about all he should ever get. He is not a real contender, and God forbid he should ever become
So what's
one.
appealing about him to
He's
Democrats?
nice looking, but you know,
I actually think there's something that's rather appealing to him for Democrats.
What?
And that is that he has been one of the candidates that's been most aggressive about renewable energy, green technology. And I think that's going to potentially give him an advantage because, you know, people like Tom Steyer are willing to throw a lot of money behind that. But, you know, I have to agree with you. I think 2% rating is about all he should have. Because
that sounds like wishful thinking of a Republican.
If you look, it is, but if you look at it, I mean, that renewable energy thing that he's done has, you know, I think in his term, Maryland sees an electricity hike of about 40%. That's compared to 24% nationwide, and it's really hurting their lowest class.
But I think
He's just not a viable candidate.
Heather, so good argument, and I'll play the contrarian to you playing the contrarian. Solyndra.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't run on green energy. I don't think climate change, I think it's a dead issue. People talk about it a lot, but in campaigns it always just goes away.
he's grasping at different people's areas. So in his speech, he talked about America succeeds if women succeeds, because he knows he's got to go after the women vote. And then in his op-ed in the Des Moines Register this weekend, he talked about repealing Dodd-Frank. So he is all over the place trying to get a little bit of Elizabeth Warren and a little bit of Hillary Clinton and maybe a little bit of the green. And I just don't think that he has, and I agree with Rick on this, I just don't think he has the personality to bring it together. I don't know who does. Maybe Jim Webb. We've talked about that
I
before.
seriously doubt that he understands Dodd-Frank, let alone supporting the repeal of it. There are certainly other Democrats who you could take seriously. He is not one of them. And guess what, folks? It's not going to matter. We know who the Democratic candidate's going to be.
Rick, there's a poll this week that said that she was 15 points down with Democrats since mid-February.
Yeah,
so that is, but that's considerable.
And you saw that most recent poll. She's still 40 points ahead of her closest.
But that's
a
why
precipitous drop, and I think that email scandal, even though it's kind of gone away, Democrats weren't very happy with the way that she handled it.
They were not happy with it. I wasn't happy with it, as you know. You heard me here every night complaining about how she behaved in it. It doesn't stick, that sort of thing. Unless she decides she doesn't want to be a candidate for some reason, she is the nominee of the party.
But I think it's a shavings make a pile kind of argument where dead broke when we left the White House. Book door didn't go well, right?
Better argument in the general election.
Right.
Those things.
Well, and
sure. But then you add email on top of it, and then
then what's in the emails?
I don't see too many positives out of Hillary Clinton.
But
I know she's not
general
running.
election issues that may help the Republican
That's
candidate.
actually a really interesting thing because Hillary is the closest to center, I would argue, of any of these Democratic candidates. I think if you knock her out of the race, things get a lot more extreme, and Republicans get a lot more competitive.
Clearly,
Yeah, no doubt.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I think that
Which is why they're trying to knock her out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
right, but there's no one to pick up the baton.
No.
I mean,
Joe
that's
Biden,
a real
Joe
problem.
Biden is going to make the funniest campaign ever.
If nothing else,
it would be
if we
well
want to
worth
face the
it
deficit
just to
of
watch
fun,
it.
I am all for it.
That's right. We don't need camp.
Well, I wrote a story today actually based on the Ted Cruz running and then the media just jumping in and then the hyperbole was just off the charts, and not just from left-leaning media. There were people on the right as well that just said he is Eric Bolling on Fox said he should not run for president in any capacity, right? But it's funny because the media just went nuts. So then it got me thinking, boy, what would be the most, forget what would be best for the country, what would be the most entertaining matchup? And could you imagine Ted Cruz versus Elizabeth Warren? Talk about polar opposites.
In other words, what would be best for us?
What's best for us?
Just as a
We'd
spectator.
love that.
Yes.
As a spectator sport, I'd pick Chris Christie and Joe Biden, hands down.
That would
actually be great.
That'd be pretty funny.
I think I would enjoy that.
Chris Christie, he's just going to be fun to watch if he stays relevant.
We're all auditioning to be writers on Saturday Night Live, apparently.
Well, and the sad thing is, you have these conversations, but what's important to the American people? And what are they looking for? And especially the Democrats. I mean, you speak for them best, but
I disagree with that.
Well, best at this table
I know
anyway.
Martin O'Malley will disagree with
Best
it.
at this table anyway, but someone has to fill that void, and right now it's got to be Hillary.
Yeah.
Can we do a quick test, by the way? Say the Louisiana
Is
governor's
it
name
open
again.
book? Bobby Jindal.
Say his name.
Jindal.
Jindal. Right.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it
Jindal.
was Jindal.
I thought it was Jindal.
Well, he still tells a mean bedtime story.
Okay. All right. It's like when the president says Pakistan. And it's Pakistan.
The
Right.
Taliban.
Jindal, Taliban, right, same thing, one of those
Taliban,
quirky
yeah.
things. Anyway, coming up next on the Daily Wrap, the minimum wage in Seattle is being raised to $15 an hour. Will it be a boom for the economy or a job killer? More next.